Hey folks, welcome back. Let's talk about the news and how it impacts your life. You've probably seen a lot going on recently. Well, let's have a think about what it's actually doing to our brains. Is news helping us? What kind of news could really help us? A big theme for us here at Take Charge is that we don't want to take you from -1 to 0. We don't want to just filter out the junk in your life. We want to take you all the way to 10 and help you find the techniques that are going to allow you to do that. We know that news is a big part of our information diet, if you like. Let's have a think about what some of the consequences for that might be and what news might actually be doing to us. So we're going to really want from you your ideas about the absolute best news for you to personally have and how you would like that to come into your life. So as we're going through this, think about it. When you go to a news website, would you want to see, some of the more inflammatory, less helpful articles be removed? And some of the articles that you think could really help you on the way to your own life goals put in their place, right? That's the kind of vision that we have. So let's go and take a look at a few different perspectives on the news and how we think these might relate to our information diet and the effect on our lives. Let's kick off with a tweet from Elon Musk, who, congratulations, is #1 on the rich list today. Let's check it out. We've got a tweet here from Elon Musk, which is in reference to the trouble at the Capitol building, where we've got here a tweet from Mark Leibovich. The Capitol seems to be under the control of a man in a Viking hat. And so the insinuation here is that Facebook has caused this. For those of you who weren't familiar, a website to rate women on campus is a reference to the foundation of Facebook, which is of course the tiny domino here. And if you've seen this video, the tiny domino will go through and knock over the giant domino, which seems to be some kind of takeover of the government, is the insinuation. So, is Facebook somehow responsible for this? Well, let's have a think about that. Is Facebook responsible for the takeover of the Capitol building in any way? Possibly. Certainly the algorithms that allow information to move around on Facebook and allow the promotion on Facebook and Twitter and pretty much everywhere else of the most inflammatory content are certainly contributing to it. Facebook doesn't exist in a vacuum, and there are many different elements to this. So the cable news and all the other sources that again choose to focus on the most inflammatory content. And at the crux of this, I would say, is a kind of a mentality that a lot of the pundits have and a lot of the news channels have, where their stance is something like this, right? The best parts about the people that I like are better than the worst parts about other people. Now, that, is always going to be true, right? If you take any multitude of sides to an argument, the very best parts about one aspect of the people is always going to be better, than the very worst parts about their opponents. So this doesn't really help you develop any greater insight, any greater understanding. Yet pretty much every news outlet has specialized in this kind of activity. So let's just go and have a look at some of the efforts that have been done to deal with this. All Sides is a website that promises to rank news outlets according to their bias. They rank them from a strong left to lean left to moderate to lean right to strong right. And the idea here is that you can actually look at a topic and understand how people from different sides of the spectrum come. Now, I think there's a lot of good intent behind this. There's the sense that people in America have become increasingly distant in terms of how they view things. So let's just have a quick look at the problem that All Sides is trying to address before we actually dive into All Sides itself. We're going to go to the Washington Post and check out an infographic they've published relating to voting patterns in Congress. A stunning visualization of our divided Congress. So what we see here is a map of voting records. So the blue is obviously the Democrat, the red's the Republican, and the lines in between represent the times that they have voted on an issue together. So we can see starting in 1949 that in fact there is actually some effort to vote together on different issues. And there's actually a lot of things going on. 1970, the graphics are almost, mixed together, right? But then what starts to happen in the 80s is the clusters start to pull apart because the bipartisan sponsorship of bills starts to erode. And so by the year 2000 or so, no one's working together anymore. And by the time we get to 2011, all the references are internal. So this is the polarization of society that is being spoken about, visualized very clearly. And I'm sure it's apparent to you that news sources and so on are behaving in a similar way, where there's less and less perspective from different, views on a topic, and more just preaching to the choir, and people, just opining at great length about how great their team is and how terrible the other team is. And naturally, this is going to create more sort of sparks of inspiration for people to become more and more divided. So, what do we do about this? And All Sides is a great example of an effort to do something about this. So let's go take a look at All Sides. We've got three main headlines today. They're all related. Normally they're from different topics. So for each of these, they've chosen three publications, and they've chosen to represent one from lean right, one from lean left, and one from the center. They tend to randomize these, as you can see. So here we've got center, right, left, then left, right, center, and then right, left, center. So every time you come here, you'll see a different sequence for how these are displayed. So they're clearly trying to make some effort towards balancing. In terms of the rankings, why is Associated Press, Politics, and Fact Check a lean left? Why is NPR Online a center? Why is Washington Examiner a lean right? Well, you can actually go and learn about their ratings methodology. They use a whole bunch of different information to calculate these ratings, and they adjust them on an ongoing basis. The purpose of this website is more than just about actually having news. It's about trying to educate people about bringing some variety into their information diet. So they've actually got a program that's running in schools. So let's go and have a look at that too. So the All Sides has an interest in bringing news literacy, respectful dialogue, and critical thinking into schools. And they've got some resources to help you actually bring their content into the classroom and help you understand about how different perspectives are working on. So they've got quite a list of goals here that they're actually trying to work through. And it looks like they've also got some apps and extensions which will allow you to kind of filter and modify the way you're going to be handling your news. So this is a way, right here, the only news app you'll ever need, right? This is what they're really trying to do. They're trying to get in between you and the inflammatory content. Now, probably the biggest thing slowing them down right now is simply time. It's that if you actually want the news as it's reported, you're going to need to go direct to the sources, whereas All Sides is always going to be a little bit behind because they're taking some time to kind of compare things side by side and try to de-escalate things. This is an example of what I would call a -1 to 0 solution, right? They're trying to get rid of a whole lot of the problems, and that's great. But where are they in terms of actually putting new content in that might be way better for you than the news? So let's take a look at a couple of comments around exactly that theme. I read the paper every day and the Bible every day. That way I know what both sides are up to. Now, whether or not you have any religious aspect to your life, I think you can appreciate the sentiment here. That basically, time-honored wisdom is going to be much more likely to be in your best interests than whatever inflammatory content is being published in the press. So rather than just taking all sides to an issue in terms of the news diet, what if we actually broaden our perspective on another dimension and say, can we actually bring in some time-honored wisdom to synthesize that? What could I use in my life today that would bring the most benefit to my life today, that I would like to see presented to me on a daily basis? And this is where we get to another great quote from Zig. People often say that motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does bathing. That's why we recommend it daily. So let's think about what news would be ideal for you? What would you want to see every day to really motivate great behavior from you? Is it helpful to you to learn to go and read a newspaper article, an online article from the people who have similar reviews to you, where it lists out all the reasons why you're a great person and all the reasons why people who hold contrary views are terrible people? Does that help you move through the day? Right? It kind of, I guess it gives you a little bit of rah-rah. You can kind of go, yeah, go team, right? But does it actually empower you to connect better with your community? Does it empower you to be healthier, wealthier, better educated? Does it really enhance your capability as a human, make you more productive, increase the amount of time you can have with your family, increase your development, spiritual or moral perspective? Does it enhance you in any of those ways? Because my contention is that the vast majority of news doesn't, right? Not all of it. There are pieces in there that can be valuable, but the desire to market highly inflammatory content and the way it can be monetized means that unfortunately most of news is actually skewed towards things that are highly emotive and inflammatory and away from things that could be really motivational and helpful to us. So if we look at news as a motivational engine, not just as a bunch of facts or opinions that are coming at us, but an actual motivational engine in our life, how would you design news so that it is going to be as positive force in your life as possible? Is it as simple as going to something like All Sides, where it's about getting perspectives across different parts of the political spectrum? Or do you need to go well beyond that and say, you know what I actually want to be receiving every day is positive messages of motivation from people who've got my best interests at heart, and really useful time-honored wisdom from whatever religious texts I find valuable in my life, whatever philosophical texts I find valuable in my life, things that have been written and debated over thousands of years, but I can't possibly hold all that information in my head at once, so I'd love to be reminded, as Zig says, on a daily basis, what the most valuable things are to me. What would a news product look like that did that? What would a news product look like that modified all the news sources out there to make them bend in that direction, or even completely take them over in that direction? That's the kind of things we want to see built. That's the kind of things that we want to be building ourselves. And if you're watching this, I hope you have the inspiration to, one, look for products that do that, or two, be the person who builds those kind of products, because these are the things that are going to shape humanity in a positive direction. I hope you've been inspired to think differently about your news and information diet today. Remember, it's your life. You've only got one. So take it seriously. And when it comes to the information coming into your head, take charge.